Hello there, Pulp Culture Cult, and welcome to the Rebel Files. I'm Sean.
I'm Josh.
Are we sure your name this time?
Possibly.
Okay.
You can call me sir.
No, you can't.
In jokes.
I have been named Obi-Wan Kenobi in the past, so you've been warned. We're trying... Look, paper. We are going to do a discussion tonight about Leia. Leia is obviously an important part of what we do around here. I mean, I have a signed Carrie Fisher up there. She is a major part of she's one of the big three. And with Carrie Fisher's passing, we started having a discussion of what they're going to do with Leia in Episode 9. And so we decided, as we were talking and stuff like that, I'm like, well, let's just film it and see what happens. So we knew what the plan was overall, was that The Force Awakens was going to be Han's story. Mm-hmm. We knew The Last Jedi was going to be, 8 was going to be Luke's story, mm-hmm. and then Episode 9 was going to be Leia's story. Correct. And that was the general known consensus of each of the main three were going to have their own film, and passing the torch off to everybody, and that was what was going along and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so now that Carrie has passed, let's start with, how do you think they're going to handle Leia? That story. How are we going to handle that story of her passing? Is it going to be a major part? Is it going to be a minor part? That kind of thing.
I think they would honestly do the character a massive disservice if they did not send her out in a blaze of glory. It's honestly hard if they have her just pass silently into that. I don't know. Let me phrase that. It could probably go one of two ways. They either give her the Force user ending, fade out with dignity type of thing. Right. Which, if they have old footage, they could do that CGI, right, and kind of make it work. I'm still kind of hoping. She's still General. I really want her to go out in a blaze of glory. I want that ode to the expanded universe Jedi Knight that she was.
Right.
Right. They touched base on it. We saw her obviously in Episode 8, coming back to the ship. Her Force powers were activated. And up until that point, we were all kind of like, okay, she's Force sensitive, she can sense, but right, has she really trained? And that answered the question for us.
Right.
Had she trained? Yes, we got her answer in that. And I was jumping up and down in the theater when that finally happened, because when she got sucked out the window, I was screaming. Like, don't let this happen. This is how you're going to end her? Please, God, no.
Oh, God, no.
And she comes back onto the bridge, and I was like... So we got that question. I don't know, man. It realistically could go either way. There's a ton of insights as to how they could fundamentally, and I really hate to say this, I do, because it pains me to say it, write her out.
Right, right. Well, they had to rewrite the script.
They did.
At least after Last Jedi, they had to rewrite it, but then they definitely had to rewrite it with Carrie's passing.
Right.
They touched on her Force abilities in some of the books, mm-hmm. Not so much like they did in the old canon and right, the old legends and stuff like that. But they have touched on her being able to understand that there's something more going on, and she was directly connected with Ben when she was pregnant with Ben. Luke had started her training and stuff like that. She did much more of a diplomatic side in the new canon, but there's been touches of things.
I haven't.
With that, do we feel we're going to see her? We know that they talked about, so there was a couple different things they talked about. They talked about just having in the crawl, General Organa has been killed in battle and moving on, and that kind of, I was like, I don't like that story. There was discussion of doing the Tarkin de-age or have somebody else play her. Mm-hmm. There's the lady who played her in Rogue One, mm-hmm. for the one scene, which I thought was awesome. Mm-hmm. There was talks of having Billy Lord play her, but Billy Lord's already a character within the Star Wars universe. So they have announced that they're going to use previously filmed stuff and throw it into 9, and they can work around it and do different things. With that, do we feel like she's going to be more of like a hologram helping Poe and the Resistance, like I'm off on a mission trying to find help, or do we feel like she's actually going to be in scenes and make, because shoehorning something in is going to be really weird, I think.
Yeah, I mean they can do it. I think you may see the realistic scenario without all that, because they've honestly said that they're not going to digitally recreate her likeness.
Right.
So now they can't easily take that existing footage of her, snip her out of the frame, put her into that type of a hologram.
Lucas did that with all of
absolutely
the prequels. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll probably. I like to think that at some point we'll like you had mentioned when we were talking about it. You'll see her interacting with Poe at some point, or you'll see her interacting with Holdo. I think there will probably be a scene there with Admiral Holdo of her and her talking. There might even be some of the sequence from her with Rey.
Right.
There might be something in there that they can easily reuse, resplice that scene in, but it's also very easy for them to take her in her genuine likeness of what it was and actually make her a hologram. Unless there was some sequence that we didn't know about that they filmed.
Right.
That's probably going to be the most. Like we see her as the hologram, the base gets destroyed, the hologram fades out.
Right.
She goes out in a blaze of glory, being the general, being the leader.
She and a small crew stay somewhere to get the First Order's attention, and that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I thought about it for a while, about the idea of her just fading like Luke, like Obi-Wan, like Yoda, and coming back as a Force ghost. But I don't know if she's, in the new canon, I don't know if she's strong enough within the Force to be able to do that kind of thing. Having her come back and be kind of, ghostly looking, and gray and not that gray lighting and stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. I think that would be kind of a cool scene. The idea, though, that I haven't really thought about it until we started talking, was Lucas did. There's a documentary about how they did the first prequel, and he would film everything on a green screen, and then he would go out and he would move characters around within the scene. So they would go and cut them out, Photoshop them out of a spot, turn them around, move them to a different spot.
Yep.
And allow them to direct them in post, in the edit room and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if that's actually something they could probably, the technology is way better now, they could probably do that. But having that ability to cut her from a different scene, change her costume a little bit in color or whatever, move her to a different spot, that kind of thing would be kind of interesting to see. Let's see, what other common questions do we have? Do you feel like she kind of already did it in Last Jedi when they are trying to escape Crate? But do you feel like she's going to be the one kind of looking at Poe? Like people come to her and she's like, no, it's not me. Poe's in charge. Or do you feel like she's going to be off on a different planet, getting supplies or something like that? She's trying to bring that diplomatic part of her out to get new people. So do you feel like she's going to be part of the main group, or is she going to be off doing something and then coming back?
It's responsible speculation. At this stage of the game, they are so shattered at this point as a resistance.
Right.
I think if we see any form of that passing of the torch to Poe, it will be an unused footage, probably from Crate.
Right.
If not from Crate, right after Poe had the aha moment with Holdo and everything else. We'll probably see it right in that vein if that's unused footage. I really do think that they will have split at this point. I think they're going to go into hiding. I think they realize that the only way to survive is to actually everyone split and work in like Splinter Cell style. And I think what we'll see is that. I think we'll see the communication and kind of that play between, Poe Dameron and herself. And I think her passing will probably be on an isolated base somewhere, with her being the diplomat that she is, trying to work. I really do feel that's what will probably happen.
Okay. The idea of... Okay, so let's ask the question, because it's Carrie now. Let's just talk about Carrie. Does the movie go buck tradition, and the movie starts with for Carrie, and then the crawl starts? Or, because they kind of did a for Carrie at the end of Last Jedi, but do they say something? Do they do something within the movie itself this time?
No.
About Carrie?
I think it would almost seem forced To a degree, no pun intended. But you got that. But no, really, I think at this point, I don't think Carrie would want them to buck the tradition. She was very hard-nosed about that type of stuff. You know, she was like, she had the mentality of, quit mourning about me, you suckers. I'm gonna go out and do that. So she was very eloquent about that, but very hard-nosed. And I think she would not have wanted it. I think she would have wanted the character to speak for itself and let the character be the character, however that is. So no, I don't think they'll do that. I seriously, and I know you touched on it when they talked about, do you start out with General Leia Organa has passed?
Right.
God, I hope that's not the case.
No,
if they do that, it's such a cop out to go, oh, she passed somewhere in the midterm, and we're just gonna borrow some footage. Cop out. I don't see J.J. Abrams doing that.
Yeah, that was one of the original first thoughts. Was the easiest way really is to write it in the crawl.
It is.
It is the easiest way, but that puts it does nothing for the character.
There's no love there,
and there's no love, and it really kind of backhands Carrie as that character. Yep. I have two questions. One is, I know a lot of people complain that the big three, Luke, Han, and Leia, never had a scene in the new trilogy. Han and Leia had a scene together, and Luke and Leia had a scene together, but Han and Luke never really had a scene in the new trilogy. So, if you could go back and rewrite a scene for Episode 8, knowing what we know and knowing what that movie was, would you have Leia on the Falcon? Do you not kill? I'm trying to figure out where you would put it. In the way the story is right now, you have to rewrite the whole thing to get the three of them together.
To a degree, you would, unless you could just get to a point where there's a scene somewhere where Rey goes and picks up Leia, knowing the legends, and does it. But Han died in Episode 1 or 7, so you got to kind of go back to Episode 7 to do that, and the plot doesn't allow it.
Right.
It just strictly doesn't. The only way. Here's the clincher. I think that would actually be funny because there is this 30-year gap in between it.
Right.
We've seen Han have some foresight. We won't go into saying force powers, but some foresight. However, his connection to Leia was so strong that here's the big scene, in Episode 9. I'm not saying this is happening, folks. This would just be kind of cool if it did, but doubtful.
I know where you're going.
Yeah. They do 3 appears Force Ghosts together.
Yeah.
Their connection is kind of transcended that.
Yeah.
And they do reunite in that capacity.
I would not be surprised if they're on some base and they get in the Leia's room and there's a photo of the three of them from when they were younger.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be a kind of a cool little touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end. The idea to one of the headcanon things that I know happens. You have to know this happens is Luke, Han, and Leia sat down and had a long, difficult conversation about Luke taking Ben to the academy.
Yep. It had to happen.
That conversation happened. And then, the three of them had a conversation later when Luke realized what Ben was.
Yes.
And so, in my headcanon, I know that the three of them met since Endor.
Right.
So
well, they had to. I mean,
I'm totally okay with that.
And everybody hates the connotation of it, but Kylo and Rey are Jason and Jaina.
They are
pretty much, at least in their dynamic.
In their dynamics,
that's exactly
yes. They took all the cues from the two of them, and
So yes, to your point, there had to be that family meeting.
Yeah.
Of your boys turning out to be it.
Yeah.
So that type of thing.
Yeah,
I agree.
I guess there's only really one question left, and that is, what is your favorite Leia moment or Carrie Fisher moment?
Does it have to be within the canonical series?
It does not have to be within. It could be anything Carrie Fisher based or Leia based. So
that I can't narrow that down. That's too hard. All
right.
Honestly, extended universe. And I hate to be that guy that go back, but that was really one.
That's why you're on the show.
I loved it. Yeah. Post Swarm War. She really was one of the defining factors after the Swarm War when she became a Jedi Knight.
Right.
That was the Leia I think as a kid I always grew up seeing. I always envisioned her as. She was a badass. She was diplomatic. She was 100% in the mix. And to watch her evolve and become a Jedi Knight herself with powers pretty much on par as Luke, and at that point he could almost drop a planet. So it was pretty impressive. You know, I think every female Jedi since has been loosely based off kind of what they were doing with her at the time.
Right.
So
Mine is Carrie Fisher based, and it's actually just the stories I heard of her at cons and like staying like. There's 500 people in line. She stayed till everybody was done, and the last guy in line still like. There was a story that a guy posted right after she had passed away, and he walked up and she had been there for 2 hours, and he walked up and had like a Leia shirt on or something. It was really random or whatever, and she had the same amount of energy and whatever, and offered him a cookie and like. Stood there and talked to him for an extra 10 minutes because he's the last guy in line, and like gave him a hug and stuff like that, grabbed his ass, and like that was totally Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things right after she had passed away. Like that's awesome. So,
that's her. Yep.
So that's our discussion on Leia. This is not the first time. This is not the first time we've had this conversation, and nor will it be the last. No. And so let us know. I want you guys to tell us your favorite Leia story or your favorite Carrie Fisher story. They are one and the same. So leave us a comment, like this video, subscribe to the channel. All of our social media stuff is in the description down below, and hit the bell for notifications for all the new stuff. And until next time, I'm one with the Force.
And the Force is with me.
There you go.